Welcome back, guys, to Meta Assassins. Been gone a long time, but we're not sweating that right now. What we're going to talk about in this episode is the major changes to Modern with the ban list. It's going to shake up everything. Don't think people were prepared for how much was going to get changed. Some predictable things and then some surprises as well. So we're going to talk about the big winners and losers. What decks are making out here with them, after explaining the bans and the reasoning behind it. We're going to talk about who makes out and who loses, and then we're going to go on and talk about some of the Fate Reforged cards that could possibly be modern playable, and then some pet decks that we were, that my friend Nick is with me again for this episode, and hello, and we are going to talk about some of our pet decks when we're done discussing all this other stuff. So, getting right into it. Okay, so here's the big shake-up. All right, so Treasure Cruise and Dig Through Time now both banned in Modern. Now, my thought is this. Okay, Wizards is allowed to develop cards for Standard that may potentially be broken in some of the Eternal formats. They need to be allowed to be given this room to, to work and so to keep Standard healthy and interesting. Now, with that said, so Treasure Cruise and Dig Through Time, obviously both broken in Modern. No big surprise that they got banned. They banned them in a very timely fashion. So they were developed for Standard. They're fine in Standard. There's nothing wrong with them in Standard. They're broken in Eternal formats, and they were treated as such. So that's the thought process behind it. It's not a big terrible thing that Wizards prints broken cards. They know very well that if they print something that's toxic to the environment, that they ban it right away, but they still need to be allowed to develop for Standard, which is what drives the product. So what do you think about that, Nick?
Yeah, that's pretty much correct. I mean, Standard should be fun. We had the Ravnica Pharaoh Standard, which wasn't fun.
Right. Yeah.
So, this is just amazing, what they've done with the Standard environment.
Yes.
But, I agree with the bannings. Those cards are broken as shit and should be banned.
Right.
But
yeah, you had an interesting perspective on. You feel like Dig is actually the more toxic of the two, which I personally disagree. But let's hear your case for that one.
I don't think it's exactly the more toxic. I mean, it's certainly the more powerful card.
Right, okay.
You draw 7, it's an instant, but it's not as much, it's not as toxic as Treasure Cruise because it's not so splashable, with the 2 blue, but it's the more powerful effect, and if you leave that, a lot of people wanted to leave Dig Through Time, unbanned. It's Treasure Cruise is the problem, sure, ban that, but leave us Dig, you can't splash for it, but if you can't splash for it, then you're left with a meta full of blue decks that abuse this card, which is even more powerful than Treasure Cruise.
Well,
and then,
I agree with you that it would see play. It's absolutely going to see play. There's plenty of decks that would just love this. You dig 7 cards. It's the closest thing you're going to get in blue to a Demonic Tutor effect. I mean, you dig through a lot of cards, and you get to keep your best 2. I mean, and there may be and you get rid of, you get rid of so many cards, like in a deck that wants to play a deck that wants to play this would be like Scape Shift. Would love a card like that. They're heavy into blue anyway, and then you could so you're saying you maybe see more blue decks dominate the field. Maybe it's a possibility.
It's like Treasure Cruise, but without the rest of the decks having Treasure Cruise.
Well, I mean, I used, just to play devil's advocate, I used as an example. You notice Dig Through Time not banned in Legacy and Vintage, whereas it's, Treasure Cruise is restricted now, isn't it, in Vintage?
Yeah, and
Did they restrict that?
that's exactly the thing. Like they probably should have. I mean, like especially LSV was saying, hey, all those like treasure cruises you're running four of in your vintage decks. I have a real quick fix for you. Like -3 treasure cruise plus 3 victory time. You know, it's just they should have banned it in Legacy at least.
Well, we'll find out. They still have some time to do so if it looks abusive. So,
Yeah.
but I guess we.
As abusable, it's just more powerful.
Okay, it's an interesting perspective. I don't know. I think the ancestral recall, even at sorcery speed, is in decks that are with we got so many freaking fetch lands and ways to fill up our graveyard. You mentioned before in a conversation, and the graveyard is an often overlooked resource, and that delve is the mechanic that makes use of this resource. So it's not terrible to have delve cards in the deck because without them, a lot of decks can maybe not take advantage of a resource. So there's a case for delve cards in decks.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's a good point, and I think that Treasure Cruise is like the quintessential example of this. I mean, draw 3 cards and the delve. They think that maybe I don't know. Like I said, they need to be able to develop for standard. So if the card works fine in standard, it's not broken. Nobody's complaining about it.
They done like the best standard in years.
Yes, I agree. And because they did with Theros, they're like, okay, monocolored stuff, and then everyone realized it's no fun. So why bother with let's make something more fun. And as soon as cons came out, it's an instant hit. The fetch lands alone would have made it a hit, but it has great. It changed the standard environment into a very diverse place where you can pretty much play whatever you want and it's workable. So hats off to them on this.
Right.
Yeah, and yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, standard's great right now. So anyway, so that's why I think we kind of agree why they needed to ban them and they need to be allowed to do that in the future. If we get toxic cards, that's okay. It might be okay. They'll just ban them and we move on, and it's back to business as usual. Now, this is the one that people were not expecting to come, or at least not with these two bands here.
People were expecting it.
I mean, eventually, yes. It was only a matter of time. I never had hoped that it would be banned, but I knew that it would be banned eventually because this is a card that does nothing but get better over time. It's a repeatable tutor using Phyrexian mana, by the way. It's because of that it puts it out of abrupt decay range, and it's a toolbox. Like it's a repeatable tutor. You find whatever piece of the puzzle you need to stabilize your board. You've got a number of options in there, and you just pick what option you need for any given situation, and it has an answer to everything. And there's no real, I mean, there's some decks like Tron that give it problems, but short of that, there just doesn't have enough bad matchups. It was just a great deck, and it
really doesn't have any truly like bad losing matchup, and that's when you know you have a problem with them.
Yeah, when it comes down to my pod beats your pod because I've got malaria and you've got whatever else. If that's what the meta becomes, it's like which pods are variants are superior to the other ones, and trying to predict that, then you have a definite problem with the card.
And, Wizards have been pushing Magic to back to creatures.
Yes.
We have creatures getting better and better. And this card is just getting more and more violent every time. Now we have Siege Rhino.
Yeah, now I'll fetch the Rhino.
Playing that, just stupid,
Yeah, just a Kitchen Finks into Siege Rhino. What? I mean, come on.
And you get them back is the worst part.
Yeah, and go ahead. And then refresh the fin. Yeah, it's just ridiculous. I thought the card was.
Everybody agrees on that.
Yeah. Well, there was just so many pod players. That's the thing. Is like I think that it was really great that they came out and did this because they made a statement that regardless of where your monetary investment as a format is, we will fix it if it's broken. And this is an example of it was broken, so it's been fixed now. So it was coming eventually. I guess we all can kind of agree then, but it was just that it happened. They really shifted a lot, all at once. So that's the surprise of it. Yes, I agree. It's very healthy. These are all healthy bands. And now we can talk about the unban of Golgari Grave Troll. The everyone knew this was coming off. It was on. It's not the linchpin of Dredge. It's not what's preventing Dredge from being a deck.
It's like it doesn't work without the other cards.
Right. So until you get that, what's that one that's like you sacrifice 3 dudes and bring a card back or bring a creature back. The flashback is sacrifice 3 guys.
Oh yeah.
Dread Return.
Yeah, Dread Return.
As long as that's out, you're never gonna have like the Bridge Dread Return deck. So
I mean, Bridge from below I think is legal, but
it doesn't work without Dread Return.
Yeah, it doesn't.
It had to come back eventually. We've been saying that pretty much since the start. Everyone's kind of been saying.
For a lot of cards. Most of those bans are just preemptive bans for modern.
Right.
Like, a lot of them don't belong.
Well, so it's good. It's a good first step. They realize that at least. So maybe we can, now that they've taken one step. I mean, it's just a small baby step into the unbanning realm. But they probably, at least we know that they're looking now at the ban list and seeing and evaluating and seeing what cards can maybe come off of it. So, and they did that last year as well with
exactly.
Bitter Blossom.
It started last year. Bitter Blossom, like, they banned it before Modern was a thing because they were afraid of fairies based on the extended experience. But
right.
They unbanned it, nothing happened.
Nothing, so, right. So we'll probably see more in the future. And
I hope so.
Yeah, and I think like all of these bans and unbans are all very healthy for the format. You're going to see diversity now. You're going to see mid-range. Now, I mean, now we can get into talking about who wins. Like, okay, what are the big winners from these bans in this shakeup? Okay, so where's your thoughts? Your number one. You got to pick one deck that.
Junk.
Okay.
I think everybody's like top pick for who comes out on top will be Junk. I mean,
it becomes. I think it becomes the go-to deck.
Yeah, think about it. When Pot wins without the birthing pot, like we've seen in a lot of recent tournaments, then clearly it's playing the good card. Like it's playing all the value, the best value cards.
Mm-hmm.
It's playing it's so consistent. It plays 4 of everything it's got, except maybe Lingering Souls. It's just so good.
Okay.
And it has also
I won't disagree. I won't disagree with you. I think Junk is it's up there. Or if we want, what is it? Abzan? Is that the new name? Abzan, or is it Asban, or whatever it is? I'll probably just end up calling it Junk. But with Siege Rhino and all the other Junk you can get all the highest value for the casting cost in the format cards in Junk colors. The only thing that you're sacrificing by going Junk instead of Jund is that somewhat reach and speed of Lightning Bolt. But Lightning Bolt is it enough to play Jund over Junk right now? And I think maybe not anymore. It used to be that way, but with Siege Rhino now...
Yeah, I don't think so. Like, they have Siege Rhino, and Lightning Bolt would make me consider Jund, but I just don't think this card alone is worth playing red instead of
I would have
gaining white.
I agree, and because white you have fantastic removals. It's not like you're looking for red for removal. You're looking for red for Lightning Bolt. Now, if that's it, if that's really the only thing, and Junk gives you cards like Siege Rhino and everything else that Jund was doing, I think it does swing towards Junk. And you get Lingering Souls, and Path to Exile, and it looks like a solid plan. But what I think that means is that if it is Junk as the overall winner here, like the top gets to be the alpha deck, we are looking at a format that is probably exactly what Wizards want, which is a mid-rangey, creature-heavy type of a game we're looking at
they
now.
just want a creature-oriented model. I think that's pretty clear to everybody.
I think so too. And they're pushing it that way, and I'm happy with that. That's fine. That they're still. It's not like you can't have non-creature strategies, but they just don't want to obsolete aggro strategies. So you say Junk is the big winner. I think that's the biggest. That'll be the top deck. But who? My pick for which deck gains the most, footing. I would say Affinity, because
Probably true.
with Pod out of the picture, Affinity and Junk being the top, the top dog there. I think Affinity and to a lesser, possibly or equal extent, Burn take big steps forward as being solid all around decks. I mean, Affinity's been around since Affinity became. It's really more robots now. It's not the Affinity mechanic, but the deck itself. I'm saying, has been a solid top aggro performer. It's kind of like your quintessential turn guy sideways strategy. So I think they take a big step here because that they have a solid game against what Junk is trying to do. Same with Burn. Maybe not as much as Affinity, but I think it turns itself back into just it loses blue with Treasure Cruise and stuff like that. It turns itself back into a regular Burn deck, which is what it should always be. But so maybe it loses some gas, but positionally it's in a better position now, I think. So
yeah, and also I think Twin actually gains.
Oh, right. True. That's a big one actually. I keep forgetting, but yeah, Twin comes out, it wins big here, without Pod.
It's not mostly Pod. Like what stopped Twin and Affinity was actually Delver. It's like
right.
Same.
Good point.
It can match Affinity and aggression. Then it just doesn't let them play their stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And Delver.
The same thing with Twin. Like it just doesn't let them combo. It's way too aggressive for control Twin.
Yeah.
Like even for the Rook Twin, like what we call that team right now, like it just can't do that. And I think Twin wins like a lot.
So you would say that of the Twin decks, that the Tarmo Twin, the Goyf Twin, whatever, is going to be what's going to be emerges as the one to beat.
I think they have to.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Not only is the version that Channel 5 was pushing, which is pretty much whatever they play, everybody plays it, but you need to have like that board presence nowadays. The meta is so creature oriented.
Mm-hmm.
You can't rely on combo.
You need your own Goyfs, is the story
you
here.
Have dig to like get the combo immediately.
Right.
You need the Goyfs to stay on board presence,
Mm-hmm.
and then eventually combo.
Right, and they are fantastic alternate win condition. So the Goyfs will pair up. You figure the Goyfs pair up against Junk's Goyfs, so they just face each other down. And while that's happening, you combo off. It buys you enough time. Because you still have all your other tools as well, of course. To buy yourself time and get your combo off. But meanwhile, if they're not staring down opponent Goyfs, you can swing with them, and Twin Goyfs get pretty big because they're putting a ton of stuff in the graveyard.
Oh yeah, and if you think about it, like if you have Goyf Twin and then a regular like Blue-Red Twin,
Mm-hmm.
Goyf Twin is just better. So you should probably play that.
Obviously it ups the cost of the deck, but
is something like an unsummon, that type of effect. That's just the only way they can kill a Goyf.
right.
In Blue-Red.
And well, that's what I was doing. When I was playing all in quote unquote Twin for a while, and I was using what's not unsummon.
Vapor Snag.
Yeah, Vapor Snag as like a 4 of, and then a couple unsummons in the sides, because I was just like bounce, and the rest of the deck was all in. It was either counter spells or dig, and I just trying to combo off as soon as possible, and just buy myself time to combo off. It works. It's not bad at all. I found it's so easy to play. My God, talk about an easy deck to pilot. There couldn't be an easier one than Twin, I don't think. Not in the format. I mean, geez, what do? You just play your freaking twin, and you play your Pestermite, and the next turn you put the twin on it. The rest of the deck is just to make that happen. I mean, it's not the hardest thing in the world to figure out. Very few decisions that are critical, like, oh, if I had only not put the splinter twin, like if I had done it, so it's like the deck is just
there's
obvious.
always the usual, like playing around
Yeah.
counters, baiting.
Sure.
Stuff
I
like
mean,
that.
that's with any
So
deck.
just every deck like plays with details like that.
Yeah.
So all around, I mean, Affinity is pretty much the same, just done it sideways.
Yeah.
There's more
Exactly.
decisions to it.
Yes. Yeah, affinity. I think sometimes because there's a few affinity. Yeah, you get some valuable decisions. I just find. I mean, when I'm personally playing it and I'm playing twin, it just feels just like stupid easy. Like they tap out on turn. Like turn 3, you play your whatever might or exarch. You tap down one of their lands, and then you just combo off it. Like if they've tapped down anything, like they play any kind of a threat, as soon as they tap their lands, if your combo's in hand and you have it there, it's unstoppable. I mean, I don't know. And then you have stuff like Peak and what's the Gitaxian probes in there to give yourself information on their hand to know if it's safe to combo off or whatever. So, but that's just one way of doing it. That's the way I was doing it. I mean, now looking at the new meta with junk, I would go Goif Twin. I don't think there's any question about it now. It's just better. It's not like you're taking on too much. We have mana fixing for days, and you're really only adding the Goif. And why wouldn't you add a Goif? Because it's the best creature in the format.
Yeah.
So Twin wins big here. There's no question. Now the losers. What's your opinion for number 1 loser?
Well, I think clearly Delver loses something.
Oh yeah, right, yeah. It goes back to being old Delver.
Yeah, but the old build wasn't that good, or actually it wasn't that consistent, Like
it was a solid tier 2.
Like maybe even tier 1.5 sometimes, but when you can refuel, if they deal with your stuff, then you're no longer a threat for the rest of the game. It doesn't have that.
Yeah, it runs out of gas. If you shut down one of its things, like if you...
like Affinity.
Yeah.
Pretty much the same.
Mm-hmm.
Because they don't have... I mean, they even have better ways to refuel with...
Thoughtcast.
Yeah, Thoughtcast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Affinity can refuel a little bit, and plus they get some value out of their lands. Their lands become win conditions with the Ink Moths and the... so the Affinity, I think, is a little bit more resilient, actually. It's hard to get too many turns into Affinity without really having a deck that's poised to do so. If you're either really good at beating Affinity or you're really bad at it. It's like kind of one or the other.
Yeah, like as long as you have sideboard for Affinity, it's not gonna be a problem.
Right, and
so
you can hit.
Down.
Same with Red. Same with Red Burn too. They're easily sided against. So that's great. That's a healthy menace. We've got Twin, we've got Junk, and there'll be many variants of Junk out there. It won't be like one solid list. You'll see a whole bunch of Junk development going on. And
it's gonna come down to whether or not you play the Charioted Courser or you go another route. I think that's gonna be the main difference.
Right. I'm not a Junk expert, so I won't bother commenting because I don't personally play it myself. I just not that I don't have the cards. I just don't. I'm not into it. So, but I think there's be development in that regard. Like you're going to see some really tuned lists come out of those colors.
Yeah.
So, all right. Another loser is, in my opinion, Tron. I think
Definitely.
Tron. If you like pre-bans, you're playing Tron because you want to beat Pod and you want to beat Jun/Junk, BGX, whatever. That's why you're playing it. You're going to give away games to Red, Burn, and you're going to give away games to Affinity most of the time. So now with Pod gone, well, Tron, okay, yeah, it's still good against BGX, and BGX does come out on top, but there's other ways to beat BGX without having the weakness of being weak to the fast decks. And I think with, fast decks being very attractive, like I think Small Zoo and maybe even like a Tribal Flames type of scenario that can quickly blow out junk, or before they get their plan rolling, could be a good, good against both them. So why play Tron anymore is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, it loses certainly a lot of the incentive to play the deck. But and it's like it did get stomped by Delver, so people are gonna have some fun with Dugin, I think, before they ditch the deck.
Maybe. I think is what as Tron as Karn 5, I guess. I would never replace a Karn with it.
Well, Karn is just too good, but I think you can get a couple of Lupins in to, seal the deal. Like, I think they're just gonna have fun with it for a while, and they say, like, well, the meta isn't really, like, Tron friendly.
No.
They lose to a lot of the stuff, like, even junk, like, they lose to junk.
If they're losing to junk, then they're
Infinity, the twin, they lose to twin.
Oh yeah, they definitely lose to Twin. And if they have a problem with junk, then why bother playing it at all? Because
Exactly.
there's no point to play it. So so Tron is definitely a loser here. Any other losers come to mind? I mean, obviously, other than Pod and Delver themselves, but
I think like Jessica Ascendancy lost.
Oh, good point.
Big time, but it did get kind of bad, kind of worse. I mean, it loses a lot of its consistency in fighting, like the combo pieces. It's just gonna be a more value ascendancy now type of deck without the cruise.
do you think it's going to be more attractive to just play other combo decks like Storm instead of Jeskai? I mean, is it more without the ability to dig down through so many cards? Isn't it better just to take the Electromancer route, the Electromancer Past in Flames route?
About the decks that actually come out on top, like Storm is probably gonna get much better. Like he never cared for things like dig or treasure cruise.
It doesn't need those at all.
Yeah.
It would never want to delve itself. The graveyard is Past in Flames. Yeah.
So Storm is probably gonna come back, especially now that combo decks are actually kind of fine. At a really fine place. They're not dominating the format. They also don't lose the most of the stuff. Like we should see more Storm.
I think you're right. It's overlooked. Nobody's really been talking about it, but with Jeskai now losing that just so easy to find their combo pieces ability, go back to Storm. It was never like bad. It was, in fact, they were there was a time when it was getting to be a huge portion. I think, didn't it take down a few GPs somewhere last year?
They also played it at Worlds.
Yeah.
Like
Storm's good.
It's always a fine deck.
I mean, with Seething Song gone, the popularity on it went way down after the Seething Song ban, and it's never really kind of come back up to how it used to be so popular. When Seething Song was a card, and it really didn't lose that much power without Seething Song, but what it lost was just popularity. Like either people just kind of threw it away and didn't want to mess with it. But I think it's in a good position right now. Combo is good, right? It's good to be able to a deck like Storm that can pretty consistently go off on turn 4 or 5. I mean, it's gonna happen. So you're either poised to stop it, or you got to beat them before they do. So either put the pressure on or disrupt it somehow.
I think it's certainly gonna make a resurgence of some kind.
And there's going to be less grave hate too, which was hurting them badly because everybody was grave hating for the Dig Through Time and Treasure Cruise. Now the grave hate goes down.
I still keep some of my Gravedigger's Cages, or in some decks even Rest in Peace. Like I still keep them in because I expect Storm to take advantage of people removing those things from the sideboards.
Right. So you double bluff them. Yeah.
Who's gonna play Gravedigger's Cage without Pod?
I was thinking that myself too. In fact, I mentioned in one of my videos, I was like, I thought I was facing down a storm. It turned out to be a twin. But as soon as I saw that it could have, because he opened with a sleight of hand and a red blue land, so my instinct was, oh crap, it's storm. And then I start thinking about my sideboard, and I'm like, I do have Leyline, but you know what? Graph Diggers break Storm's back. They cannot go off with Graph Diggers in play.
Yeah, that's why I still haven't removed it from my sideboards. At least, I mean, I shaved off a couple.
Yeah.
But it's like still one or two in there because I don't know yet. But until I make certain that Storm isn't gonna be so dominant, or
right,
at least see a big resurgence, I'm just gonna keep them for right now.
Yeah, and Graph Diggers is a card anyone can play, and it will shut. And that's what's great about the format right now is there's decks that can definitely get out there and surprise you if you're not prepared. But those who are prepared are rewarded for it. Like if you prepare well for a meta, you can have the right hate cards for Affinity or Burn or Storm or whatever it is. If the well prepared are well rewarded, and I think that's exactly the type of format we want.
Yeah, it's really, they with those bannings, they really managed to make it into a sort of rock paper scissors combo format.
Yes, that's perfect. But that's what you're hoping for. So it's all good bannings, and it's a good. I am a fan, and there's a lot of people out there that are pissed. Mostly pod players, of course. The Delver players are hurting, but you know what? You can't expect Wizards to only limit their development to cards that won't break eternal formats, because the standard is what drives the game, guys. I mean, we love modern and all that, but standard is driving the interest, and it's easy for people to pick up and play, and
it's the most expensive format.
It's making them the most money. They don't make a dime off of you buying singles from Star City Games. They do make a bunch off of people buying packs, and especially with this last block, they're basically printing their own money with these things. With the fetch lands alone, I mean, I know when I win F&Ms, I'm asking for cons packs. I'm not asking for Fate Reforged, because I want as many of those fetch lands and paper as I can get, because it's like you're sitting on as many of them as you get. You can guarantee that they'll triple, quadruple in value. It might take a few years, but look at the cost.
If you manage to get a foil one.
Yes, especially any foil ones you can hang on to, because the people that are paying, that have the money, they will pay top for those.
Oh yeah, and don't sell them now.
No, I would be hoarding them now. If I were, is anyone out there listening to this, hoard as many of them online and in paper as you can, because they will go up. There is never going to be a running, because it's land, and it's land fixing for any deck that it exists now and can exist in the future. So, and there's only going to be, I mean, it's in print now, but that won't be forever. So
no, think about it that way. More people are getting into the game each day. Those things won't be reprinted for next at least
a long
5 years.
time. Right. It's going to be a long
more,
time.
I think more, but let's be on the safe side here. 5 years.
Right.
Those are gonna go up in value.
Oh yeah. As soon as they go out of print, because there's
too much. The non-foil ones are not gonna go, $200 or something stupid. But
probably not that much, but
a lot more value.
I think we can use the enemy fetches as a rough example of how those cards can go up in value quite quickly. I mean, they were the same price that they are now for the on-color fetches, so there's no reason for me not to think that we'll see the exact same thing happen to these new reprinted fetches that happened to the, what is it, Zendikar fetches?
Yep.
Yeah, so I mean, that's my thought. So I hoard those suckers because they're going up. But and yeah, I know you can get some fetch lands from Fate Reforged, but I don't bother with it. If I'm winning packs and I have to take packs, I take cons, and I usually get one fetch out of it. So, but Fate Reforged cards that we might see modern play.
I have those prepared actually.
Yeah, let me look at your list real quick here. Ujin in Tron. Okay,
Yeah, I think people are gonna take
they will. They,
Hogan, like
just for
play
fun.
around with him for a while, but he's not gonna make you know a big like appearance because just too expensive for anything.
Yeah, yeah, he's too expensive for anything but Tron. People will use him just for fun factor because planeswalkers are fun. So he'll probably see a little bit of Tron play here and there as Karn 5, maybe 6, just a singleton or something like that. So you got Monastery Mentor. Now, which one is that?
Yeah, wanna show the cards? Like,
Hold on. Yeah. Do you?
and I can do that real quick because I haven't brought up.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, oh, I spelled it wrong. There it is, Monastery.
Yeah, like if you want, go on
Oh,
Skype.
I have to. Yeah, Yeah, you gotta share your.
Yeah, that's gonna be way easier. 'Cause
All right.
I prepared those.
Okay, I see Ujin there.
Alright. So the next one I think is Monster Mentor.
Okay, so let's see this guy. He's got prowess. He's 2/2.
So like, there's been a discussion about this guy. Like he
Hmm.
makes a lot of tokens, and he have like good token making cards in modern. So the question is, will we see that blue white red token deck that uses value ascendancy to just break the game? You know.
Hmm.
I mean, he's one of the few cards that actually can make it into modern. Because Favorite Forge, it's not a super strong set.
No, it's not. But I mean, the second set of a block usually isn't.
Yeah, so, like, you think about this guy, and you think, well, he's not
Maybe.
right up there with the rest of the cards, but what can I do with him?
Yeah, you could probably see put him in some kind of like blue white grindier like controlish deck, maybe like alongside a card like Geist of Saint Traft or something.
Yeah,
Um,
so no, like, think about, you have this guy, right? So you cast a couple spells, like 2 or 3, maybe even, cantrips or anything.
you mean
Then
like
you have an Ascendancy out, and you bolt the guy. You just lightning bolt his face. Now what happens? Ascendancy triggers, puts +1/+1 on everything, so it's not 2/2.
right?
It triggers prowess, they attack for 3, and you just win.
Could see
It's not
play.
gonna be one of the good strategies, but I think people are gonna play around with it.
Yeah, okay.
Now,
I'll buy that.
something that I think will be played is this guy, the next card.
Yeah, I think so too. I think he fits more in that deck you're describing than that last guy. In a like a blue, white, red,
I
burn your
think the board
face,
with
high
interaction
value.
is just gonna go take this guy and love him.
Yeah, that he. I mean, he turns.
Like,
Your lightning bolt is now a lightning helix.
yeah.
Right, and then the extra ability on top of that, like if you have, I mean, it's you can't really count on ever having the mana for it, but if you do draw him late game, he has scaling value there, which is so he's good
It's
early,
amazing
he's good
with
late.
this.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think he can definitely see play in the right deck, and it's like a blue, white, red, burning face, counterspelling stuff, electrolyzing and drawing cards, and then you draw him late game. Oh, I'll just cryptic command and put it back into my hand or something,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
like just win. Um, so great, yeah, that could see play. I like him the best so far
Yeah,
of
so
the
like,
ones.
these two, they're really fringe, like,
Yeah,
to play with.
that
This guy,
yeah, he's
I
a
think,
great bear. He's a,
yeah,
for a bear.
really
He's a
bear.
he's a great bear.
Right? He also has lightning, so when you attack,
True, right? Yeah, it's a good point. I didn't even think about that. He's a bear. He's like a yeah, he's a bear with lifelink, with
the best bear in Magic.
right. He's getting well. I don't know about that, but yeah, he's up there.
Yeah.
He's up there.
So, the next card, I think a lot of people are gonna play this guy.
Yeah, you'll see him.
Doesn't even
People, because for fun factor. of not if nothing else. You can
Yeah, but like
delve.
yeah, first of all, he's a 1 mana 4/5, and people saying like, oh, but when are you gonna cast him for 1 mana? They said about that.
Right, Treasure Cruise as well, right. So that
Okay,
clearly the
one
delve
mana
is
for
not an
five,
right.
which is pretty much a goif, like it's the generic goif here. So black decks are gonna have
The Black Goyf, okay.
yeah. So it's not exactly a black goif. I mean, it's legendary.
Kind of fills that spot though,
Yeah, he's gonna be played, and this thing,
Yeah.
like his ability,
Yeah, it's
it
gross.
can work as a card draw engine.
Right. So he's an efficient creature with a nice little engine, and he fits into something like Grixis. He fits into some, Grixis loves him.
Even fits in Abzan.
You think?
Not that
Yeah.
they're gonna play him, but
Yeah, I guess they could. Maybe as a single.
yeah,
could-
those are versatile colors.
Yeah, true. Blue and green. That's exactly. That's his two friends. Black's two friends. So, that's true. Yeah, I mean, as far as control goes, yeah, I could see play. Yeah, this card I love in standard. Oh my god, this card blew up my Mardu deck. I love this card in my Mardu deck. So, I was thinking about talking about him too in Modern because okay, there's a card called it's one colorless, one red, one white, and it's a 2/2 flying haste. So it's this card obsoletes that card because this is 1/2 that it stays in one color. So it's a 2/2 flying haste vanilla. That's all it is. It's a 2/2 flying haste for 3 mana total.
Oh, I remember. Yeah.
It's like a Sky Knight Legionnaire, I think he's called.
It's the Boros card.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
So this Flamewake Phoenix completely obsoletes that card, and whenever you see that in Magic, where one card obsoletes something else, you have to look at it because it's going to be a pushed card. So,
Yeah,
and this card I think is pushed. I don't know if it's pushed enough to make it in Modern playable, but I love the card.
Now,
I mean,
the reason I picked it as a modern playable is because a lot of people were talking about this card. Like when you see it, think zoo. What does zoo want?
Flyers.
Yeah.
And
it
haste.
wants- yeah, it flies, which is something zoo doesn't have good access to.
Right.
It has haste, so it's perfect for them.
Right.
It goes back
Yeah.
to goifs.
Right.
Those are 4/5.
Yeah.
That's the generic goif.
Right.
It goes back because you have goifs, and it's just in their colors. I mean, 2 red.
Good
3
call.
colors,
Yeah.
like
Zoo.
3
Definitely. And
we're expecting zoo to make a resurgence.
I think so.
I think this is gonna be a nice addition. I mean, I'm still not sure, but a lot of people have been, talking
I
about
would
it.
say it's worth testing at least. I mean, it's not like 4cc or anything. It's well within the zoo small and medium-sized zoo curve. And it's like you said, zoo needs flyers. I think that's one of the things that, that it lacks more than anything else is that creatures that are hard to block, because if they start getting chump blocked or blocked in any way, now they lose a lot of their game plan because now the game starts getting dragged out and then they Tron or they combo off or whatever else happens. So this is in a zoo deck really a great addition, I think. Especially with the Goyf interactions and just can't get rid of the damn thing. It's cheap to bring him back. There's high value there. Good call, yeah. I'd like to play with that in zoo and see how it
So
goes.
now for the last card, show your screen with the banned modern cards. Because we're getting to the last, I think, modern playable card, and like, show your screen.
Yeah, I'm showing it.
Yeah, right. So you see the last card on that screen.
Oh, the Dig Through Time.
Yeah. You see it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, here it is. And I think this guy, right here, he's gonna make some plays. Like, I mean, I know he's he's a 6 mana dude, but he's just so good. You know,
He gives blue black decks or Grixis deck I would say he provides a solid one of finisher
yeah,
in the right
never
shell.
dies. He blocks everything and he clears tokens, which personally I expect to be a thing.
Okay.
It's like, why wouldn't you play him in modern?
I have a hard time getting the 6 mana. He's other than as a singleton.
Decks, like, or the slower end of the mid range decks.
Maybe in some things, like I see him in a Grixis type of a scenario, like where they're having like I don't know, like a cruel ultimatum scenario as a win condition in cruel ultimatum or something.
I personally see him in Esper, but I think he has the stats and the abilities to be modern playable. That's what I'm getting at.
All right.
Personally, he's my favorite guy, but that doesn't make him the best of the cards. Like, this is better.
Yeah, that's a great card.
And then this
is probably better. Yeah.
More playable. Like, this is probably the best one here. But this guy just has the ability to be modern playable. That's what we're talking about.
True. Okay. All right, and that's what I'm looking for is
like
cards.
He has a relevant ability. He never dies to anything that's not
short of a damnation. Oh, we were kind of talking about that. I think damnation gets a win here, and I think cards and decks that maybe, with Pod gone, damnation and Wrath in general was just terrible with Pod in the format. It felt so bad to Wrath,
well, actually,
and then they just
it's
repopulate.
Not that bad because a lot of people used like Wrath to deal with Pod because they don't come back, like they're value creatures.
Yeah, they seem to cut this, but as soon as if you're using Wrath, that means you're playing some kind of a grindy match, and they repopulate. Especially with the persist mechanic, they end up repopulating, and it felt bad to Wrath against Pod, especially when they persist.
I'm just saying, like, if you're gonna use any mass removal, you use that because of the extra value that they don't come back, the persist things. I mean, I'm not saying mass removal is good against Pod, but if any of it is good, it's Wrath and Damnation.
Okay. Well, I mean, they're gonna persist comes back through it. They just can't regenerate. You have to exile them to make persist not work.
Yeah. So it's
like Anger the Gods. That's why Anger was seeing so much play.
Yeah, Anger was amazing.
So okay. So I guess that's pretty much all. That's all I got. I'm not really an expert at all the new cards that come out. I have none of them hit online yet. So.
I looked at the card image gallery. I've played with most of the cards on the release and whatnot, and I just don't think there are others that would, have any reason to be played in modern.
Right, but still, I mean, having a couple 2 solids and some fringe stuff, that's really all you ask from a set, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I mean, outside of the fetch lands and a few small, Treasure Cruise and Dig Through Time, if you take those out of it, there's not too much from the cons that's getting played. Swift Spear, that's a good one.
Swift Spear,
Rhino, true. Yeah, it was a great set. Let's be honest. Yeah. Cons is a freaking great set. That's the best set in a long time.
Like, the best set that's come out since.
It's a long time. Like original Ravnica, maybe.
I mean, for standard, like probably, for modern, I think Return to Ravnica had too much of an impact on all formats.
God, yes, it did. But they were kind of learning back then. I think they took what they learned from Return to Ravnica with leaving Deathrite Shaman around for so long. They learned their lesson in cons. They're like, okay, you know what? You see Theros, weak power level, almost nothing modern playable coming out of it. And they're like, okay, well, we can't do that. So, yes, we will print the good cards, and then we'll just ban them. And that's fine with me. They're banning them before the season starts, which is, that's okay. That's good. Let them do that, and then you have a few months to get crazy with them, like with Treasure Cruise, and you get to screw around.
The bans are just in time for the Pro Tour.
Right. So That's good. I can't wait. It's going to be a great season. I'm really looking forward to the diversity and the fact that you can prepare, like, people who are good and prepare well for their particular tournament have the ability to be rewarded. It's not just which pod deck beats which pod deck. There's more interesting decisions out there in sideboarding and stuff like that. So I'm happy. All right, so that's pretty much the main portion of the show. You want to show your pet deck, so let's take up that. Let's see, how do we get to that Esper deck now?
I'm still sharing screens.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. So this is the thing.
All right.
I just wanted to show off Silumgar in it. Actually, that's
Okay.
why I want to show the deck, because I want to show a deck that plays this dude from Fate Reforged. It's pretty.
That's cool. Yeah.
I mean, if you look at the deck, it's my generic Esper stuff, like the Thoughtseizes. I love Lingering Souls.
Gotta love it. Yeah, it's so high value.
Yeah, I also love Esper Charms.
Yeah, it's an underrated charm. It's a people don't realize instantaneous discard 2 cards. It's the only, as I know of, in modern card pool, it's the only instant draw 2 for 3.
Yes, it is.
So
like, the thing that comes closest is the crap thing, with the flashback.
Oh yeah. God, what is it?
I don't even remember.
Yeah, I know. I don't care for it either. But yes, it's like draw a card, then flash it back, and do it again.
Yeah, since the bans, like, I have a lot more 4-ups because I used to run 4 digs before that.
Right.
He has the removal, and he has the combo in the grave.
Oh wow! So you said it transformative sideboard, they'll call this.
Yeah, if a deck is not interacting with me,
then you'll combo out on them.
With it, I just combo. So yeah, and it also plays Cylinder, because I love this dude. Like, Lingering Souls, because this is a control deck.
Of course,
Souls is the worst card a control deck can face.
Agreed.
So bad. You can't answer it. What?
You can't remove it. You can't counterspell it.
These figures, like, what are you gonna do? Tap them with Cryptic? It's stupid. So, like, this guy fixes this problem, which I like. A lot of the Abzan decks are playing 2 Lingering Souls, and this guy solves that.
At a minute, I think minimum 2. Like, I think you'll see plenty of them playing full sets. That's why I think there's going to be some development there. But yeah, tokens. It's a great card. It's a fantastic card. You can't. There's no good answer for it. It's a 2 for 1. Whenever you have cards like that are just almost guaranteed 2 for 1, or maybe even better with Lingering Souls, if they have to like manually remove individual tokens, now you're getting like some real value out of it.
What answers do you have in a control deck for Lingering Souls? Like,
not much.
Pyroclasms to make it efficient.
But now you're not playing control.
Well, yeah. Exactly.
I mean, so exactly. Control doesn't have the answers.
This guy just fixes that, so that's why I like him.
Right, and
he is playable.
Okay.
So yeah, that's
Batterskull looks nice in there too. So he's kind of like your second copy of Batterskull. Normally in an Esper deck, you probably would be running like 2 Batterskulls instead. But just as a, hey, there's another option. Check out this guy. Got you.
And this guy, unlike Batterskull, this guy's not gonna die.
True. Batterskull is tough to deal with too, though. I'm kind of a Batterskull fan, but
yeah, me too. I actually cut one recently for this guy.
Right.
I was running 2 because it's so good.
Right. So you just it's cool. Yeah, definitely. And then the rest of the deck is your solid, regular Esper sort of, game plan there to remove or disrupt and come over the top of them in the end game.
Yeah.
You got Sphinx's Revelation and Utter End.
This one is an interesting addition, actually, because it deals with Keranos.
Yeah, it deals with lands too.
It's a major concern. Like, a lot of, even Twin is starting to board in Keranos, or some even main deck like Blue White Red midrange.
Yeah, it's been Keranos has been seeing play.
Main board now.
That's an interesting. Yeah, that's an interesting choice there. I didn't think about needing the exile for Keranos, but I mean, I guess if he, well, he, the blue, white, red, he never turns on, so you can never path to exile him.
Yeah, that was the problem. That's why I needed this card, and they run two Keranos, so it's like,
Got you. Yeah, I got you. So, and you're gonna dig to it over time. You'll dig to your, when you use Sphinx's Revelation, or you're drawing the game out. There's no question, and you've got all kinds of.
You're drawing the game.
Sure, yeah, definitely, and the snapping back cryptics, and just getting cute, and so yeah, Esper, and plus now we've got on color fetches for them, which is great. It was so stupid having only enemy fetches. I'm really glad they did that. So the fetch lands help them.
Mana fixing now, which is stupid, I think.
What was that?
It's awesome, but it's powerful.
Well, what we need is, I don't think we'll ever see something that hates on it, because people like to play multiple colors. It's just fun. So.
Yeah.
Like price of progress. We're not gonna see price of progress. We're not gonna see wasteland. We're not gonna see like non-basic hate, because more than what we already have, because it's kind of anti-fun, and with them pushing this towards a creature game, they're not trying to make it anti-fun. They're trying to make it fun, because creatures are fun.
I think we might see anti-basic hate in the form of Blood Moon.
Well, we already have that, though. I'm saying, I don't think you're going to see more than what we have.
I think it's gonna, be played more now that Abzan heavily relies on those.
Heavily.
Colors.
Yeah, Blood Moon.
Domain Zoo. Like, holy crap, that annihilates them.
Yeah. It does. And how about remember that Blue Moon deck that was kind of like, I think it snuck a win out in some tourney last year and surprised people.
Actually, which was more surprising.
Right, yeah, because it was just like essentially it was kind of like Delver with just main board hate in the form of Blood Moon.
Yeah.
But it was a smart choice, because there's so much non-basics out there, so.
Yeah, when you get the ultimate, like, turn 2 remand their play, and then turn 3 Blood Moon.
Yeah, right. They do nothing, it's like, I just scoop, because I can't use my lands.
Yeah.
And Jund, like when it was before, it was Jund was like, well, at least I can still cast red stuff. Junk doesn't even, like, they're useless. They've got nothing.
Exactly.
So yeah, you're right. Blood Moon might see some more action there in decks that can incorporate the effects. So that's cool. I'm happy. I like Blood Moon. Right. You just got to respond, like tap mana in response. Yep. Yeah, and plus Esper Charm is it's just a good card. I mean, high value.
I find myself using the discard so much.
During their draw step or something.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's the only 2 mana instant discard in Modern that I know of.
Yes, I think it is.
At any cost, unless you're getting into something like with an X casting cost or XX, but.
No, I think it still is actually.
So yeah, they draw, like, they got a card in their hand, they draw, you cast that. Now it's like Time Walk or something.
Yep.
So right, and then or if it's it's 2 mana at the end of their turn to draw 2 cards, 2 for 1.
Yeah, exactly.
Great card.
It doesn't have a bad mode.
No, it doesn't. It does not have a bad mode. So if you have a deck that can fit it in the curve, I recommend it. I use them myself in my Esper decks. I haven't messed around in Esper in a while, but I think when I was dallying in Esper, I was kind of doing stuff like Ashiok, which may get more value now with creature.
That guy, but I don't know. Just
it's the 3 CC in control colors with control abilities. Baby Jace is great too.
Affect the board immediately, which is like something you need.
Well, yes and no. I mean, he can kind of be like a 3 CC fog, because when he comes down and hits, he gets 5 loyalty counters, and they have to kind of deal with him. So it's like, if they can't take him out right away, you may get some high value out of him, and his plus, he's not fragile. Like, whereas Lily comes down and she -2s to defend herself. Now she only got 1 left. this guy comes down and he +2. Now he doesn't defend himself directly, but he does put a big target on his head. Like and if you have blockers or something down, or if you've just thought seized and spell snared your way into having an open board where they don't have threats, Ashiok, you got to deal with him. He'll end the game, and it's only 3 CC. It's not like you're committing a ton to him.
I'm not saying the guy's bad. I just, I like my 3 drops, up to the 4 drops to be a little bit more, like pressuring the opponent or completely reactive.
Okay.
Like, that's just what I like. But you can make him work in decks.
I think that if you want to, and he's fun. He's a fun dude to play. So
fun for sure. I mean, I play him in standard, like the what was it, Esper Super Friends. I mean, it's not a super good deck, but it's fun as hell.
Yeah. Esper Super Friends. Like with what like.
It was just I wanted to play Esper because I play Esper, and then I needed to
like with like
get started before I got my CDC whip.
Okay.
So I just played Esper Super Friends for a couple weeks. It was super fun. I lost a lot of games.
Right, but it's fun to play. So, yeah, that's kind of where I was messing with. I was messing with Ashiok, and I was messing with stuff like mostly what you're seeing here. Thoughtseize is a guarantee. Cryptic Command is in. Esper Charms were there. Lingering Souls were there. Snapcaster's a no-brainer. Pretty much a lot of what you're seeing here. I think I was at like 4 paths, and it wasn't running Disfigures.
Well, I have them like in the side, because this thing is not super updated.
Yeah, I got you.
For the Delvers.
Oh, right. Okay.
Most importantly for the Swift Spears, is like you don't really want to path the Swift Spears.
No, you don't. You don't know. It feels very bad. It feels very bad to path a lot of little
even
ones.
Even a flip Delver, I figure it's okay.
Yeah.
Even this bigger.
Yeah, Disfigures. It's just an underplay card. God, I wish we had Innocent Blood. Oh, if we had Innocent Blood, the Black Control would be... Black Control's already pretty strong, but my god, I would play that as a 4-of in my 8-rack deck, I can tell you that right now.
Yeah, probably.
That's instant. There would be no other main deck removal than Innocent Blood. That's just too good.
Yeah, I think so.
But yeah, we probably won't see it. It got cut off at the Onslaught block, unfortunately. Just misses the cutoff. But
it's actually right on the edge, isn't it?
yeah, it's right in Onslaught. So.
Yep.
So a shame, but oh well. All right, so I'll throw up my pet deck.
Yeah.
Let's see what we got here. Move to it. Hold on. I can do alphabetizing. There we go. Okay, so here's my little pet deck. You still sharing? Oh, do I need to share my screen again?
Yeah.
All right. So here's my pet deck for the format.
Demon.
Yes, Deck Demon, and
I actually like that super much.
he, if Obliterator is playable, then you can play Desecration Demon. I mean, there's no if we're gonna say Big Fatty is okay at 4 CC and Obliterator makes the cut.
Really playable?
He saw play, and he was seeing play in various junk decks before Siege Rhino. He was seeing play. In mono black control decks, he was seeing play. I'm not saying like tier 1 play, but it was being used, and unlike 90% of the other 99% of all the modern card pool, there were people using him. But in any case, he's a 6/6 flyer for 4, and if they're using his downside, you're winning. With the board, with the kind of deck that I've got going here. So what is basically what I'm trying to do? It's a mid-range mono black deck, but it's on a kind of fast side of mid-range, and it's just as in black. I'm using all of the best permanents that are available, permanents and sorceries, an instance or whatever that are available. And okay, I know you hate Pack Rat, but he has to be dealt with. You understand? He
Yeah,
if
I
if
know.
he comes out on turn 2, and turn 3 he's ready to make copies. So you have he and you are and I'm running a game here where he's expendable. If they do deal with him, then that's fine. He's expendable. I've got it's the guy that doesn't die and the other guy that doesn't die. And if they have to, and while they're dealing with them, you're tearing. You've got pretty healthy amount of removal. You can get rid of their guys that are on the board with Lily and Victim of Night, and yeah, of course Bob. Um,
Yeah,
Blood-soaked
you kind of
champion
need him. Yeah.
triggers his own raid, which is fantastic, especially when you're doing stuff like just suiciding him in because Whip is on the board and you're just getting the lifelink, and then you just bring him back for free. Same with Blood Gas, so it has it's got a lot of gas, and then you can like whip back the Deck Demon, and swing for the win and stuff like that. So in a deck that kind of will hurt you with Thoughtseize and Dark Confident, nobody's playing Whip in Modern. Um,
And
so
it's a shame.
it's a good
I
card.
think.
It comes down and it stabilizes an aggro plan, which is what
Yeah.
this is. So without spending any mana other than the initial 4, it could be what stabilizes you right when it hits the deck. You swing and gain a bunch of life, and all of a sudden I'm out of burn range, and all of a sudden I have like repeat the guys that they can't get rid of that are gaining me life all the time. And if you can't deal with stuff like Pack Rat, um, he can definitely steal. He steals games. You get to play Liliana, who it's obviously the
Best Planeswalker in Modern.
best planeswalker in Modern. Fits perfectly into the shell. Interacts well with cards that you don't care if they go to the graveyard. Um, and you play Bob, which is an awesome card engine. So we have engines, we have removal, we have control, we have a pretty quick mid-range aggro plan that Deck Demon is hard to just block and just ignore. He's hard. I've won lots of games with him. So, and there's lots of room for development. This is just like I said, my pet deck. So you could adjust the numbers here, make it more removal and quicker, and use different stuff.
Like,
But
the only thing probably I would do with it is just, okay, take away Pack Rat, but there's a good reason for it. It's like you can play another Desecration Demon sort of, creature, so you can have more targets for Whip. I think that's the
you
same.
can whip a rat and make a copy. If you've got the mana, you can whip the rat. If you got 7 mana, you whip the rat. He swings, and you make a copy, and the copy stays.
Yeah, but it's too much mana.
Okay, but this deck, I'm just saying, there is, I'll
No,
whip
I
back
get it.
anything.
I get how I like how it works. I'm just saying, if I were doing it, like I would just get another target for Whip, so it's even, more valuable.
Like what? Like that
With
Gatekeeper of
Desecration
Malachor or
dies,
something?
get them back. That's 6 mana, like in haste.
Yeah, I know. It's
6
expensive.
power. I mean, 4 mana. It's very good.
Which one are you saying now?
But like when the Desecration Demon, like for instance, dies,
Yeah, you whip him back, and it's nasty as hell.
it's 6 power, lifelink haste.
Yeah. And they probably just spent a lot of investment getting rid of it in the first place, and then you whip it back, and it's a 12-point swing.
Yeah, that's exactly why I would probably cut down to 2 Pack Rats and then have just a couple more targets for a Whip to make it, just better.
Okay, I would deal with it. I'm open to like I said, this is just a pet. I just kind of threw it together because I wanted
I like the deck.
I wanted a deck
Like
that
the plays.
yeah, I wanted a monocolored deck because I do like monocolored strategies in a format that hates on it. I love to go like to just show that there is still a place for them. So I mean, and you know what it really plays out like with all these dudes coming out all the time, and then you have some control elements and board removal elements. It plays out a lot like Merfolk deck. So I kind of call this my black Merfolk deck because it like I even have a Merfolk deck here. It's kind of old. I really hate playing the damn thing, but yeah, it is old and really bad, obviously. But I think I was doing like white blue Merfolk or experimenting with it.
Dude, I remember this guy.
Yeah, this guy, this lord. This is like I think this is prior to I think there's another Lord of Atlantis now that I think I made it so long ago that it was before that guy was even around.
Yeah,
Um,
there's another lord.
yeah, so but that's what the deck ends up playing out a lot like. It's because you kind and it has like similar matchups, like I mean things that are weak to Merfolk type strategy are definitely weak to this, and this has a little bit more control over the board because we have Black's removal and Black's targeted discard and Black's sideboard. That comes with some downsides as well, but I don't know. I like it. The whip kind of feels like in like Deck Demon kind of feels like a little bit the way their Master of Waves works out, where it's like when it hits the deck, you either have an answer, or you're gonna have a
Yeah,
bad time.
very similar actually in that regard.
So yeah, so that's there's my pet deck that I wanted to throw out there.
It's cool.
It's
Right.
fun as hell to play. Like, I mean, competitive or not, it's just fun. It's like a lot of dudes that are just enjoyable to play. And, you get to play your Bobs and your Lilies. And it's fun to beat people's face with Deck Demon. They're like, wait, what? That's not a modern card. That's no fair. Like, it's not supposed to be good enough for modern. And meanwhile, it's beating their face in. So,
Well, like, why wouldn't it be? I mean, it's a 4 drop that makes you interact. Like, it's just what Modern wants.
yeah, it's and a 6/6 flyer. It's
Yeah.
like, it's a finisher. So,
I mean,
and
in
deal with me.
multicolored decks, I get that you can get better 4 drops,
Mhm.
especially, since
Sure,
Siege
Siege
Rhino
Runner.
happened.
Yeah, yes.
But, in black, like, how much better than that does a
That's
4 drop?
that's the best one. There's a lot of black fatties at 4, and I think Deck Demon is the best one in my opinion. There's a few other ones. I think there's the one that's the same thing. It's like, but you can't win or lose the game, which annoys. I mean, nobody wants to have to kill their own creatures. Um, uh, there's like, or it's like you can't win the game, your opponent can't lose or whatever, and same cost and power, and it flies. I think it even has trample. But then there's a obliterator at 4 CC in black, which was formerly, in my opinion, like the best. But now with Deck Demon, I think that's the best. It's easy to cast, and it also without having to use, because obliterator is 4 black. Now I can use utility lands. I'm using Mutavault here, but you could play around with that slot and use that as a utility land, like a Ghost Quarter or
Yeah, maybe.
Tech Edge or whatever. Like, if you were, I don't know, whatever utility land you wanted to put in here. But anyway, the Mutavault is just a great card, I think. So um, I like it. It's the best black man land, if you want to consider it a black man land, but black doesn't have man lands, so it's the best option they have, I think. Maybe Blink Moth Nexus could be cute in here.
I think this relies more on the damage.
Yeah, I think I want to swing for 2, really.
Yeah, exactly. Like, Blinkmon doesn't provide so much.
But Blink Moth's better in multiples, I guess. It's kind of cute.
Yeah, but then in multiples, like, I don't know.
It's not a bad card. I'm not
Yeah,
gonna say
well, you
Blink
should
Moth's bad,
probably
but
be playing other stuff.
right,
I'm not
right.
saying it's bad, but you should be getting stuff out and then swinging with additional mana
Yeah.
instead of just swinging, like, tapping the 3 other blink moths.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Other one.
Sure. All right, so I guess that'll wrap it up. The only other tiny little thing that I guess we're gonna have to talk about this was, you did kind of blow me up a little bit on your blog, which I do understand where you were coming from, but basically you hit me up because 8-Rack is kind of back to exactly where it was pre-Treasure Cruise, but
Yeah, and that's what I don't like. Like, it's exactly what it was, and I think we can do better than that.
you're gonna have, okay. I mean, like I said, it's this is what I run in. Yeah, it's exactly the same as with this tiny little variations. I mean, okay, three removal main board, one less pack rat. I mean, I know you hate pack rat, but I'm accused of being unoriginal, but it's been tried and tested and true for me for a long time. The lines of play that come out of this, for me personally, have offered me enough wins where I don't see, you know, I don't feel the need to change up too bad. Now, if you get better lines of play for you personally with other decks, that those decks may be better for you. But I think this is the type of another, this is the type of an area where you don't want to say definitively that one
I'm not
thing's
saying
better
that.
than
I
another.
said like the deck is good. I just think we can do a little bit better. Like for instance, if you swap a victim of night, like one of them, with the murderous cut, I think that would be just amazing. And it's such a, in my eyes, that's a big improvement. Because you're not using your graveyard for anything.
Yeah, but I have
You're
cards
passing.
that I don't want out of my graveyard sometimes, like
Yeah, but you
More
don't
Salvage
have
and
to.
Raisin
Like, you
Skirt.
don't always have to pay one for murderous cut. And you're constantly putting, like, if you're not using Inquisition, Thoughtseize, stuff like that, to put them in the graveyard, then why are you playing 8-rack? I mean, you
Yeah,
have
but
to play those cards to make the
there's
strategy work.
time. But see, I've played so many games of 8-rack. You got to understand, when you play online, you can play many games, and you'll realize that there are times when your graveyard is empty because your hand consists of like a couple racks, a removal or two, Lily and Bridge. That's I'm not getting rid of that hand. If my removal in that hand is a Murderous Cut, well, it's dead until I can put some cards in my graveyard. If you got a couple of racks, a Bridge, a Lily, and a Murderous Cut, I want that Murderous Cut to be Victim of Night every time. And that's a good hand. You know what I'm saying? That's not a
For
bad
instance,
hand.
Like, I probably wouldn't keep only racks without discard.
If you've got Bridge, Lily, and racks, you're not keeping that. I'm keeping that. And a removal, yeah, definitely.
Well,
Let's say one rack. So let's say you got one rack.
Bridge, but yeah.
Okay,
I mean,
well,
I don't know. I just like there are things like those tiny little improvements that for me are huge, and that's what I talk about. Like, I'm not saying this is bad. Like, it wins games. I've seen it win a ton of games. Like in your videos, and I tested back. I tested this exact configuration. It wins games. I just think you can have those little subtle improvements that just make it, in my eyes, way better.
all
I'm
right.
not bashing on you, like
Well,
this list. I just think
yeah, it was a little bashing, but I can deal with it. I got things
it's
to
a
get.
little bashing, but then again, it's my point of view. Like,
True. Yeah, and then we are all entitled to our own points of view.
yeah.
So that's pretty much, yeah. I just wanted to just touch it a bit, but I guess that's pretty good for this episode. I do appreciate you coming on here again, man. I mean that. It makes it a lot better. I try and do these by myself, and it's just not as good.
Inviting me.
All right.
Even
Well-
after that blog.
Oh hell no, that's fine. But as long as I get a chance to respond, that's all I'm saying.
No, that's fine. I mean, I'm cool. Like, I don't want to call this bad. Like, the reason I use the word bad there is because, I think I can do better than that configuration. But, if other people like this and don't like playing other things, like, then for them it's not bad.
Okay,
It's
fair
a
enough.
point of view.
Yeah, and then like that's one of the great things about Magic is that there is room for creativity, and I think that you have to admit that certain people are better suited to play certain decks,
Yeah,
and
that's very true.
so that's kind of like what I'm, where I'm sort of my position for is like if this is what I'm suited to playing this. My thought processes and the decision making that I've come to have over playing Magic for years. This suits me. That may not be right for the next guy in line, but this is just mine.
You saw my list earlier. Like, it's so much more grindier. It has 24 lands.
It's a big
it has the
departure.
grindy stuff. Like,
Yeah.
it's just personal playstyle.
Right.
And that's why I would call this, for me personally, bad. but it's not. Like, I seen it win so many games. I can't
Right.
say that it's just not a good deck.
Yeah, it's just it's that's the
Yeah.
only thing that I was trying to say there is just that it's certain folks. So everybody's gonna have different
Exactly.
different ways to play out, and even in a deck as tight as 8 rack, there's still even in that there's still going to be a lot of differences for the individuals. Like it's anyway, so I won't beat the dead horse, but that's kind of just what I want to say about that. But I do appreciate coming on, and we'll wrap it up and hopefully do more. Maybe the modern season's coming up, so hopefully we do more of these
Sure.
if you're up for that. All right, my brother, I do appreciate it. Now we'll just knock this out. And guys, please subscribe and thumbs up these videos and share them if you like what you're seeing. I don't see a lot of people out there doing. I mean, I see a lot of podcasts, but they're all like radio and have no visual to them at all. So if I don't see a ton of podcasts out there using, showing cards and doing what we're doing here. So share it out and subscribe. Appreciate everyone watching and post your comments later.